Hi, this is Bonnie, and this is part 2 of the Halloween. It's kind of like going to be a decor that I'm creating. I've already shared with you Otis from Sizzix and Tim Holtz that I created, making it a blue moon. So this is a continuation of what I'm going to be adding to my home decor. And I told you at the end of the last video that I was going to be creating these pumpkins. And the pumpkins are actually called Pumpkin Duo, and it's 665999. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how I figured out the color that I'm going to be using, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut all of the pieces out. It's really, if you look at this, it doesn't look very complicated. You can see how these colors can go together and that there's not that many pieces, and each one includes both of the pumpkins. So I decided these are the two pumpkins. They come separate, even though you can see them together in the front. They are two separate pumpkins. And the base I'm going to use, this is kind of like a dark gray. It's not very much of it's going to be showing at all. And that's why I went with just a neutral color, not to waste my ink. So the first color I'm using is going to be Fired Brick. And that will be the first, I guess I'm trying to say that, yeah, it says orange 1 on both of them on the back. And then I'm going to be using Ripe Persimmon. And again, this is going to be layering from the bottom up. So this will be the first layer, and then it will go in that order. The next is Ripe Persimmon, like I said. And then I have Spiced Marmalade. And you can see how the colors look because I put them on white cardstock. And then I have Antique Linen, which will be kind of like the highlight on the picture. And then I've got the green for the stem. So I'm going to go ahead and get those all cut out and show you how they look if you are going to be layering them. Okay, so I have all the pieces cut out, as you can see, pretty much in front of you. And I just wanted to remind you, I lots of times will look at the die, or the dies and how they have the score lines in them, but just so that I know what's what. But you can see the score lines on each one of these very easily, so you know where to place the next one layer up. I just wanted to show you. So it really does help that way. So I'm just going to lay these on top of each other. I am not gluing them down yet, but I wanted you to see this is the second layer that would go on top. Actually, I should have put them on the base layer, sorry. It will all go on top of that dark gray layer first, and then we will go the layers up from that. And this is not exactly on there right, but pretty close. So the first one, like I said, was dark gray. Let's get a little closer. So I just have that more or less in the picture, so instead of these other things, it gets a little confusing. Okay, let's start again there. So I'm going to go ahead and show you that. And like I said, so this is a gray layer. The next layer was Fired Brick, and then the layer up from that is Ripe Persimmon. Now I'm doing Spiced Marmalade. And again, you can see the score lines, and you would just lay those right on top. And you have to know lots of times which way is which. And that will be going on top of that. Moved over a little bit, but pretty close. So you can see how those are layering up. What I try to do is do the darkest color on the bottom and then get lighter as I go forward. And then these would be the highlights. And again, you can see the score lines where the highlights would go. And that's for the round one, and this is for the tall one. Yep, and this is the one that, you think it would go this way, right? But it actually goes this way. So that one is a little bit, you have to really look at your picture, and this is really, really helpful. You can look and you can see how that goes. And then the last thing that would be added to all of that would be the stem. The actually stem does have a color and that goes on top. They originally want you to do a green in the background, and you can, but I thought the gray, because there's not much of it showing, looked like a shadow. So I just kept it as, you know, started out with that gray. And again, you got to look at your picture sometimes to see how this goes. So I will be gluing those all together so you can see how that works. I also have an alternative pumpkin I'm planning to do. I want to make a buffalo plaid pumpkin, but I wanted to make the basic pumpkin so that you could see how that works. A buffalo plaid pumpkin will be, I'll show that to you after I finish this one. Okay, so I've got these all layered up now. They're really super cute. Now, if you like yours a little bit more shaded and stuff, you can go ahead and add some ink even now to this, and it will still give you a little bit of highlights. So as of right now, I'm finished with making just the basic pumpkin, and I have two other things that I'd like to do. Like I said, the buffalo pumpkin, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I also, I think I'm going to try something else with the scraps. If you save the scraps from this, I'm going to show you something else I think you can do with the scraps. Okay, so this is going to be the scrap version, and I went ahead and cut another set of the base of the pumpkins. Let me see, I was going to show you what that looked like. And it's just the first layer for each of them. I wanted to have something that I could build on, which is similar but not quite the same. And then if you recall, my very first color that I used was Fired Brick. So you're going to say, what is this? Well, what I decided was, actually, if you left even more space, you probably would get more of a border. Oh, here we are. And so what I'm putting these back in so I can show you what I did. So what I decided to do is to cut around each of these and have a very thin, it doesn't have to be perfect or anything because we're kind of like doing things kind of organically. And so I cut these pieces out and I thought, I think that we can build something using these scrap pieces. And so, but it's going to be layered differently. It's not going to be layered like you do how we just did the other ones. We did the biggest ones on the bottom. This is going to have to be reversed. And I'll show you why. I've already cut one of them from the next layer, which was the bright persimmon. And if I put it on top, you just totally cover up what you just did, right? But if I start layering the other way, I'm going to get a completely different look. And it'll be kind of, like I said, it's going to be a little bit more wonky. And I think it's going to be kind of fun. So I wanted to show you what I'm doing, just to see if it's something that you want to give it a try. I've already cut out one from the ripe persimmon. This is the other side of it. I was just going to try to show you so that you could see what I am doing. I'm just cutting around, and you know, this can be trimmed out if it needs to be. It's not going to be a big deal, like I said, because it isn't a perfect, it's more organic. And it's just saving your scraps. Otherwise they'd be tossed. And I think I can use this for another project. So I'm kind of excited about that. I always like being able to reuse things that I have. So, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and cut around all of these and see what happens. And put them back together. And I'll show you how I put them back together after I get them cut out. Okay, so this was my what if I used the scraps. So he's kind of really an abstract looking, it almost looks like a gourd in a way, pumpkin. But it's just, I'm using my scraps and I thought, what if? So I'm going to go ahead and show you, but just to let you know, the next part of this video will be the buffalo pumpkin. So what I did was I took the top layer, if you want to call it that, and basically I put a little bit of glue behind it. Not a lot, because I know that it's not going to adhere to anything other than this little bit. So then I take the next layer and make sure I've got this going the right way, and I do. And that is going to go, I get that right, make sure I do. Yeah, because the lines go on the bottom, and this one I believe goes on the top. Yep. So that kind of overlaps that. You can see that going. Move that out of the way. And I mean, Otherwise you just throw it away. It's scraps. It's not hurting anything just to try to do something different. And again, this is just going to adhere to that. Whoops, I did that wrong. I should have done it on this one, but that's okay, because I'm going to go ahead and put this on. Doesn't matter if you did it the wrong way. I'm going to go ahead and put that on top of that, because you can do really it either way. But it's a little bit easier to line it up when it's the other way around. It doesn't really matter. And again, you're going to notice that some of them are going to be going a little bit over this, what you've already cut. So let me go back to this. You should really be building from the back. It works better. And I just put some glue on that little piece right there, and that's not going to adhere to anything until I put it on the base. Well, it will now because actually I put it this way. So that's just the layer up. And I think I like it to go down just a tad. You're going to notice there's space from the one layer to the next because it's been cut out, right? So basically that's kind of like what you end up with, is just layer on top of layer, and then you end up with a little bit extra on the side. And then you just take that base and you just go around the back of it a little bit with the idea that it's going to adhere. So you're always going to add more glue. And that just goes on top of that. Now here's the deal. This piece right here needs to go on top of, because it will get lost. And you can kind of see how the back of it looks. It overlaps it. And then you come back around like this, and you decide whether or not you want to trim some away. You might want it to be a little bit more wonky, I don't know. I trimmed a little bit of mine away, but I did want to keep the little bit of organic wonky abstract. Okay, so what did not work is the stem. What I needed to do is cut the stem out separately, and that's what I did, and to put on top. It's the only piece that I actually cut out extra that was not part of the scrap, because it did not work. So that's what I did. And like I said, I'm going to use this more like abstract art. It's not going to be a part of the project I'm working on with the Blue Moon. It's just extra because I didn't want to throw my scraps away, and I knew that if I didn't use them, and I saved them, they would probably never get done. So that's the finished abstract look. Kind of fun. It's a little bit different, and you get to use your scraps. So next part, it's going to be the buffalo plaid. Okay, so this is my interpretation of a buffalo plaid type pumpkin. And this is obviously the black and the white version. You could change this up just by changing your colors to make it a red and white, a green and black. Any of those colors will work great, just depending on how you go ahead and put them together. So what I did was, for the background, to show you on the larger pumpkin, I went with black, and then I wanted, again, so there would be a difference in shading, so it wasn't just all white. It could be all white, and you could actually add some ink to it and even shade it that way. This is just how I went ahead and did it. I did not use ink this time, but I can suggest ink colors. Like this would be great as the pumice stone. This could be the antique linen, and then I just plain and simple used a white. I used a white to stamp on. I'm going to show you that too. This is the highlight in black, and then the stem I did in gray. I'm not really sure if I would have done the background in gray and then put the black on top to match with a highlight. That's another option that you could even do just by looking at this. Now, I wanted to show you how you can go about and get your plaid. Yes, you could use any paper that you have in your stash, but if you want to have something that is probably proportionally correct, there's a stamp that Tim Holtz has. And I've got it all inked up, so I can't really show it to you. But anyway, this is it's called Perfect Plaids CMS 383. I know there are other stamps from Stampers Anonymous. Sorry about that. But anyway, that would work for the plaid. This particular one comes with 2 different plaids, and I think they both would be great. Now, the deal is, I'm going to go ahead and show you how I stamped. I'm going to stamp this one also, but this is the one I did. And what I did was, I just stamped a piece of white paper, and then I die cut it. What I call fussy die cutting. So I wanted the plaid to show up in the biggest part. So what I did is I purposefully, here, let me show you. I purposefully took this piece, when it goes flying, and set it, even though you can't see through these dies, I set it so that I would have the biggest piece of the plaid there in the center. And I can go ahead and show you. I'm going to do the same thing with this one, making sure I've got it the right direction. And I'm going to say that this main piece right here is going to have the majority of the plaid. And it's just how you put it on there and how you die cut it to get a fussy, I call it a fussy die cut. And then that will be the center for that. There's other things, like I said, there's so many other things you could do. This is just one idea if you want to do a buffalo plaid type or a plaid pumpkin. And the reason I really did this is my daughter has decorated with buffalo plaid for Halloween, and she also has it actually for Thanksgiving and Christmas. But this will work really good as, and it will also go with the project that we're working on with Once in a Blue Moon. You can change again the moon to be yellow to go with it. It doesn't really matter. So I'm going to go ahead and put this together. I wanted to show you what this looked like, but I'm going to stamp. Really, I don't think it's a big deal for me to show you how to stamp. I think you can really figure this out. So let me just kind of slide this all out of the way so I can do that really quickly for you. So all I've done is I put a piece of white scrap paper that I have, and then I'm going to go ahead and do it with this plaid just so I can show you the difference in the plaids. So basically I'm just putting that down in the center, and I did use archival, whoops, I need to put that up. I did use archival black soot to stamp that, and it worked great. So I don't need this whole thing stamped up. I only really need a small amount, but that's why I only have a little bit of paper sitting there. Takes a little bit of ink to get this going too. There we go. That looks pretty good. Might have to stamp it twice, which is why I like the platform. And again, this gives me enough places that I can pick from and do those 2 pieces. They're not that big of die cuts. There's just these 2. So I only need enough paper stamped for just those 2. Again, you could stamp underneath even more of the layers, but I just chose to do the top layer. You can see I really needed to do a little bit more inking. I don't know where that little, oh, I know where that is. There was a thread on this, I think, pad. I hope I got it off. I don't think it's on there. Nope. I don't know where that came from. I'll do that again. Because that, I will not be able to cut that part with that little thread because it's going to stay, it's stamped. But I think I have some pieces that will work. Let's see. So that piece, I think I do want to go up higher. And this is how you check. This would have been okay if I hadn't had that string there. And that would work there too. So I just need to ink up a little bit more. But that's how you figure. When you go to stamp, you kind of look and you do the fussy cutting is what I call die cutting. But I guess it's good that you saw how to stamp this, seeing as I had one little error there. I don't know where that little piece came from. String. I'm still missing some spots. There we go. That's better. That will work. All right, so that's what I do so that I have enough to go ahead and make my pumpkins. So I'm going to go ahead and layer those up, and I'll be right back. Okay, I wanted to show you the two options. These are the two different plaids, and I think I'm going to go with actually the darker plaid. It looks a little bit more like a buffalo plaid to me once it gets cut and everything. Both of them I really like. I think they're really cool. So I'm going to go ahead and put this one together for you, and maybe the other one, just so you can see how I did layer. I didn't know if anybody would be interested in that. So the first layer obviously is the lighter gray. And again, like I said, if you wanted to go with just inking them, I would use pumice stone, I believe, would work great. The antique linen might be a little bit more brown if you add it. Otherwise, the color is more of a cream for this layer. All right, so then the next layer would be the cream layer that I did. And little tiny pieces you got to get some ink on, or not ink, but glue. And then line up those score lines underneath before you really, as Tim Holtz would say, commit to your layering. Okay, I might be able to get a little closer. There, that's better. You can also see the score lines in that. And like I said, I'm going to go ahead and use the darker one. So I'm going to be using this one. And that's the next layer. These, once you get these cut out, it really goes quickly to put these pumpkins together. So if you were going to make a lot of these at one time, it would go over really, really well. The only thing hard about layering them is if I have this camera in my way. I think that looks really good. I really do like the look of the plaid. And then I'm going to do the last layer, which is the smallest layer. And just a little bit of glue. And you can't see it, but it's there. I mean, there is a, when you have the design like that, it's harder to see the score lines, but you can, it's there, you can see them. It's probably harder to see when I'm filming. All right. So I do really like the black. Like I said, I might have changed that out and done the gray underneath and then put the black layer on top. I'm not really sure. I actually like it too. So like I said, there's always so many options. And actually even a green would have been fine up there. I just don't see too many green stems when I see the buffalo plaid in the stores for home decor. I think they usually have, I'll have to look, be honest with you. I think they usually just have a black stem. I really love these dies. I just think they're genius. I love the dimension and the thought behind them. So anyway, that will be that particular pumpkin with the buffalo plaid on it. I have to say, I think I favor the round ones the best, but that one works fine. And again, this is just the lighter gray on top of the black. And again, you can see the score lines really good in the video. And the next layer will be the cream, or you could even say it's a little bit off white, I guess. I just do it like I said so that you can see the difference in the layers. Oops. stuck into my finger. All right, then the next layer would be the plaid. Like I said, I think I really favor this one for the plaid the best, but I think both of them are cool. All right, and then the highlight in black. And again, the score lines are there. And then the stem. Sticking in my finger again. Okay, so we've got the plaid ones completed. We have the original orange ones completed. I'm going to raise those up so you can see them. These are plaid. And just our traditional. See if I can get that in there. I think I'm going to have to move up just a little bit more. There we go. And then if you really want to do some abstract, I also did some abstract. So we have a variety there. And like I said, you can imagine these would even be pretty just stamped in the buffalo. And then these even in red or green, like I said, for the backgrounds would be really super. So I hope you enjoyed that little tutorial. Not so little, took a little bit longer than I thought. And if you wouldn't mind subscribing, that would be super. And I'll have what I use down below in the description. Thanks so much for stopping by.